I have a bit of a problem. I've got a PC build in mind, but I can't for the life of me decide what parts to pick. So I decided to outsource that particular decision making to my dog. Here's how it's going to work. I'm going to pop the parts on bits of paper on the floor. He's going to pick his favourite. Then we're going to chuck it all into a 3D builder to see if he's a hardware genius or I need to refrain from giving him my wallet or cash. If he's built something that's half usable by the end, we might just build it. Maybe with his assistance, we'll wait and see. This is supposed to be as educational as possible, but mixing in a bit of fun. So I will admit this video is a little bit different to what I normally do on the channel, but I've come across a great little tool over the last month or so where you can pick your parts and add it to a 3D builder so you can see your build come to life as you pick the parts, and I just wanted to share it with you guys. I'm not sponsored by them in any way, and I just thought what better way to jazz it up than to have the dog pick out the parts for us. So yeah, let's take a look at the tool and see what it's all about. Okay, so this is Build Core itself. Really handy little tool. As you can see, you can start your own build or you can choose from these pre-configured PCs at the bottom. If I was to click on the 1440p gaming as an example, it gives us a little bit of a recommendation as to what we could build. So the parts are listed on this right hand side, as you can see. You can also add things in like your case, monitor, mouse, pretty much everything. And even coming down to thermal compound and the operating system. But what's really cool about this is, yeah, it will take everything that you throw at it on this right hand side and pop it into a cost breakdown for you. So you get a projection of how much that's going to cost. Obviously this is in pounds, but you can come in and select your country in this top right hand corner so that you can make it, yeah, bespoke to yourself. Some other cool tools on this, which, yeah, you do get this with other PC part pickers, is the compatibility. So it will show you what is compatible and what isn't. But what I really like about this is, yeah, it also projects the power consumption in watts and it gives you a 3D mark score at the same time. So you're able to have a look at the PC in full. You're able to even come in here and edit the RGB lighting so that you can get a full understanding of what that PC is going to look like. So that's why I really like this tool. So without further ado, let's get the dog to pick out the parts and then we'll throw them all into 3D part picker and have a look at what he's built. Meet Thor, fresh from his very important schedule of naps and bird watching. He's the true mastermind behind this operation. I just provide the thumbs. All of this time, you thought I was the brains, but now my mask has slipped. Now for the ultimate decision. Will Thor pick Team Red, or will he pledge his allegiance to Team Blue? Red it is then. It looks like we're diving headfirst into the world of AMD. His options are the budget-friendly Ryzen 5 5600, the modern Ryzen 5 7600, and the gaming powerhouse Ryzen 7 5800XD. Straight to the Ryzen 7 5800X3D. Let's prepare for some serious FPS. Will he go for the MSI B540 Tomahawk Max for a budget-friendly board, or will he flex a little with the feature-rich MSI B550 Tomahawk with stronger power delivery, M.2 slots and some shiny modern goodies? He has landed us on the feature-rich MSI B550 Tomahawk. Now for the memory banks. Will Thor opt for a solid 16GB, or does he foresee a future where 32GB of RAM is the only way to truly unleash this build's potential? No compromises here, Thor has spoken, and 32GB of RAM it is. Clearly, he believes in ample headroom for all our gaming and multitasking needs. Next, a crucial aesthetic decision. Will Thor's refined sensibilities lead him to choose the sleek, understated RAM, or will he decide on the dazzling glow of RGB to illuminate our build? Well, it seems Thor appreciates a bit of flair. RGB it is, because who says performance can't also be a light show? Now for storage. Will Thor keep it simple with a single speedy M.2, or does he envision a dual drive setup for even more lightning fast capacity? Thor's vision here is clear. 2 M.2 NVMe drives it is. Looks like we'll have plenty of ultra fast storage for games, applications and whatever else his canine genius deems necessary. Now for the star of the show, the GPU. Will Thor play it sensible with a power efficient RTX 4060 for smooth 1080p gaming, or will he choose full chaos mode and unleash the RX 7800 XT for high-end 1440p and a ton of VRAM to grow into. And Thor, ever the pragmatist, has opted for the GTX RTX 4060, a solid choice for excellent 1080p gaming, proving that sometimes efficiency and smart performance do win the day. Okay, so with the heavy lifting done by Thor in picking the CPU, motherboard, RAM and storage, some of the other decisions like the case were left to my less evolved human brain. Now let's see if we can do his vision justice. Okay, so let's start building Thor's masterpiece. He left the decision making on the case to me, so we do know that he picked out a B450 Tomahawk. That's ATX, so we need to make sure that our case accommodates that. I'm not a massive fan of huge towers, so I'm going to go mid-tower for this. And keeping on point with my theme, I like everything purple, so we're just going to go for this ATX case itself. We're going to add that to the build. And there it is. Next up, the motherboard. So Thor chose AM4, so we need to make sure it's an AM4 build for the CPU that he picked out. And it was the MSI Tomahawk that he chose. We should be able to pick out by manufacturer and whittle that down a little bit. We now have our options, and he chose the B540 Tomahawk Max. So this is the one. We'll add that to our build. So just to talk about why the Tomahawk itself is good, it's cheap and common. It has good VRMs for the price. A lot of people widely recommend it. It does have 4 DDR4 slots and decent, if we spin this around a little bit, it was a bit delayed. In that I/O, it's got, decent audio. The I/O itself is a bit basic, but just a caveat with this build as well is that there probably might be a BIOS required for the new CPU that we're going to use. So check the version before buying. But this board really is good if you're buying used or on a very budget focused build itself. So next up, now we've done the motherboard, is that CPU. So as I said, he did choose the 75800X3D. So let's find that. So it's AM4. And we're just going to use this little search tab to find the exact one that he picked out. So it's the 75800. That should narrow it down a bit. And it was the X3D itself. So we shall select that. Now, just a little bit about this chip itself. Obviously, it's Zen 3. It's got that 3DV cache, and it's got those 8 cores with it. Why this is still a great CPU in itself is that it's still one of the best CPUs made for AM4. You can achieve amazing 1080p, 1440p FPS thanks to that big cache that it has, and it's perfect if you want a high-end CPU without switching to AM5. Next up we have RAM. So Thor chose RGB and 32GB. So we're going to respect his wishes and we're going to make sure it's filled with RGB, and most importantly that we have 2 sticks. For a long time, 16GB in builds was the go-to, and it is still perfectly fine for most builds. But with modern titles getting more demanding and open world games, especially if you're like me and have got Discord, a browser and 50 tabs open, maybe OBS running in the background while you game, not recommended. But what that does is it can make 16GB start to feel a little bit cramped. That 32GB gives you that comfortable headroom, ensuring that your system stays nice and smooth even under heavy load. So we're selecting those. And just to talk a little bit more about why 2 sticks, so most motherboards support something called dual channel memory. Think of it like this. If you have 1 stick of RAM, it's like a single lane highway for data. But if you have 2 sticks installed correctly in the right slots, usually 2 and 4, it opens up a second lane. What this does is effectively doubles the bandwidth, allowing your CPU access to data much faster. If you're getting 32GB, you almost always want to get 2 sticks of 16GB, not 1, but 2, to take advantage of that dual channel performance boost. I also want to talk a little bit about speed. So we can see it here and it's measured in megahertz. While this doesn't have a dramatic impact on your CPU or GPU, faster RAM can definitely give you a noticeable bump in frame rates, especially with certain CPU like AMD's Ryzen processors, which we're using in this build, which really benefit from higher memory speeds. So we're going to pick this kit here and add it to our build. And now you know the reason why we've picked out these two particular RAM sticks. It's because we're looking for a balance of capacity and speed, and definitely making sure that we utilise dual channel. Next on to the storage. So what are we going to pick for storage? Well, Thor picked out two NVMe drives. Let me just explain before we pick the part why that's actually a quite smart move. So what we're going to do is use one NVMe drive for the operating system, so apps and Windows, maybe some productivity stuff. But if we split that, so we have two, if you ever need to reinstall Windows or do a clean install, your games and files on the second drive are untouched. That makes life way easier. It also helps with performance and organisation, so your OS drive isn't getting hammered by massive game installs and constant updates, so everything stays a bit snappier and cleaner over time. And that second NVMe drive will be dedicated to games and big files, so Steam library, clips, project files, that kind of thing. That's why two drives are actually a really smart move. Obviously, yeah, you've got the difference between SATA SSDs and HDDs, so already there is a performance boost there by not using a HDD, but NVMe's like the ones Thor picked, take that and crank it up a little bit more, so they've got a faster connection to the motherboard so they can move more data a lot quicker. For this, to be honest, my go-to, and this is just personal preference, I usually go for Crucial, as high a gen as I possibly can. I would probably go for two of these, and we'll add those to our build. We'll just check again that it's compatible, and yes it is. Next up is the most important part of the build, and that was the graphics card itself. GPU. This will probably be made quite easier if we just pop in. So we went for the RTX 4060, so we'll just go 4060, see what comes up. I might keep it on point with the motherboard, so we'll go for MSI here. Maybe we'll just want to be a little bit more budget focused, so we'll go for this particular card here. Now let's talk a little bit about where this GPU itself shines. At 1080p, this thing is great for high or ultra settings in most modern games, and at 1440p, it can still hold its own if you're happy with medium-ish settings and tweaking a few options. 4K though is probably pushing it for this class of card. VRAM wise, yes, it's got 8GB as we can see here, which in 2025 basically means it's entry, ticket, comfortable 1080p and lighter 1440p. Higher resolutions and newer games that like to chew through VRAM, so in all honesty, 8 gigs is fine for this kind of build, but longer term, probably it's not going to be a 4K monster or it be maxed out on ultra at 1440p kind of card. But paired with our CPU, this combo's balanced for 1440p high settings in quite a few modern titles, but the GPU is going to be the main limiter here. But let's add that to our build. So now we've done that, I wanted to talk a little bit more about 3D Mark. So what this is then able to do is give you a 3D Mark score. So it will give you a CPU score and a GPU score. So as we can see, our GPU is probably letting us down a little bit, but we're able to see what we can achieve in terms of FPS. So if we drop that down to medium, we can see that on Fortnite we could get 160 FPS, 280 FPS on there. But if we went to 1080p Ultra, it would drop it a little bit. And I really like that you can instantly see on these main titles, or the ones that people play the most, what FPS you're looking at with the different settings. So that is also quite handy. We're also then able to see what sort of power supply we need. So we can see that at the minute we're drawing 338. In order to get a good estimate of how much power we're going to draw from all of the components, we should probably add in the fans, because they are obviously going to add to our power consumption. And in terms of fans, I am actually a little bit of a be quiet fan. Excuse the pun, so we shall go for be quiet. And keeping in theme with Thor's want for RGB, let's go for these Light Wings LX, and we shall add probably 4 of those. There we go. I quite like those. They are in theme with our white motherboard. So next up we have the cooler, because that is also going to add to our power consumption. I'm a fan of Noctua, so we will go with Noctua for this particular build. And probably something low profile, so we'll go for that for now. Add to build. And there we go. Next up, we have the all-important power supply. And quite handily, this application does give you a hint on where the minimum is. So I can see from having a look through here that actually 650 is about the minimum that we could get away with. But I'm thinking longer term, if we do want to upgrade anything, it's probably better to give ourselves a teeny little bit more wiggle room. I'm always torn here. I personally either go for MSI or Corsair. Of course, there are other brands out there. This is just my personal preference. And so I'm going to go with the fully modular version just to make our lives easier when it comes to changing anything out. So we shall go with the fully modular MSI 750 in this case, and we're going to add it to our build. So now we have Thor's PC fully built, we can see that we've hit just over £1,200, well, £1,292, and we can see our total power consumption, which is actually quite low. And we're able to see our end 3D Mark score, which is 10,763. And the beauty of this is we can even come in and we can add things like thermal compound, maybe a capture card, so that we can get a really good estimate of exactly how much our build's going to cost once we've added in all of the little intricacies, which is also quite cool. So we'll add that to build. And yeah, all in all, I don't think Thor's done too badly there. Would there be a few things I would change about this? Probably, but to be honest, yeah, fair play. It's an alright build. Okay, so now to rating Thor's masterpiece from a scale of struggling with spreadsheets to an absolute gaming beast. I would give this build a solid 7.5 out of 10. And I'll admit this video has been a little bit out of the ordinary of what we would normally do, but me and the dog had an absolute blast making it. Let us know, do you think he has a promising career in PC building? Should we build it, or is his career over before it's begun? If you would like to create your own masterpiece, I've dropped a link to build cores below. And again, thank you ever so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you on the next one.